second challenge and earned his money. That makes 2 challenges down with 11 more to go. Next, they offer him a deal. He can walk away now or continue to compete on 11 more challenges for millions in prize money, but there's a catch. If he fails a challenge, quits, tells anyone, or attempts to interfere with the game in any way, then he instantly loses it all. Convinced, Elliot locks himself in the bathroom and presses 1, registering himself for the game. There's just one last step before it's official. He must face the window and repeat the phrase, "I will dance with the golden toad." The voice on the other end is so eager to get started that he practically cuts off Elliot before he's even finished, and tells him to get a good night's sleep because tomorrow will be his first big day.
Before they shared this
That'll be a 10-yard return
on the last day,
45, and the Raiders will take over now, 1st and 10.
Okay, I guess that Elliot's luck is finally starting to turn around, or is it? The chance to become a millionaire in less than 2 days is an opportunity that almost no one would pass up. But we can't become so blinded by what we stand to win here that we ignore all of the red flags surrounding him. Elliot needs to start asking the important questions, like how they managed to find him in the first place, and where they got all of this detailed information about his personal life. Now, I have some ideas about this that I won't spoil just yet, but trust me, it gets weird, with the origins of this game going all the way back to ancient Rome. So it's safe to say that Elliot is in just a bit over his head. If you're taking up a new job or signing up for a contest, then you probably want to find out whatever you can about the organization behind it, just to make sure that everything was on the up and up. So why wouldn't the same logic apply here? Whoever's running this game hasn't given us much to work with, which is a red flag in and of itself. But based on what little that we do know about them, perhaps we can start to make some real guesses about what their intentions are. Let's start by talking about the ringtone that plays whenever the voice calls him up. You probably know it as that circus song, you know, the one that goes, well, it's officially called the Entrance of the Gladiators, and although it was originally intended as a military march, it's since become deeply connected with circuses, where it's been used as a soundtrack for clowns and other performers entering the arena. This is a warning sign that the game here is more about someone else's entertainment than Elliot's own benefit, and he needs to be careful before he literally ends up playing the fool. That's not to mention that they have $4,600 lying around to give Elliot just to kill and eat a fly. That's almost 10 grand if you adjust for inflation. A pretty penny for such a simple task. I mean, I'd probably eat a fly for a lot less than that if you caught me on the right day, especially in this economy. So the fact that they're paying him so much makes me think that they're just hooking him in. And whatever they have planned for the really big bucks is going to be downright diabolical. This brings us back to Elliot's first challenge, to kill and eat the fly. Soon, we're going to find out that nothing that the voice does is accidental. There's a reason for everything in this game. So let's take a look at this challenge to see if anything stands out. Because of their connection with death and decay, flies are often associated with evil or demonic activity, so much so that the Lord of the Flies eventually became the nickname for the devil himself. There are many examples of this connection, even in the modern culture, like in The Exorcist, when a swarm of flies gathers in Reagan's room after she becomes possessed by the demon Pazuzu. So far, Elliot's completed the first 2 challenges out of a total of 13, and this is important. The superstition that 13 is an unlucky number is widespread across many cultures, with perhaps the most well-known example coming from the 13 individuals who were present at the Last Supper. Then, there's that last bit about dancing with the golden toad. This one is interesting for a few reasons. First, like flies, toads are sometimes associated with witchcraft or dark magic. There's also the Chinese Jin Chan, a golden toad sitting on a pile of coins, that's used as a charm for prosperity. The Jin Chan should never be placed facing out of the home or in the bathroom, which is exactly how Elliot was positioned when he completed the braves. Essentially, this would mean the opposite of what the toad is meant to bring. And what's the opposite of good luck? Well, it's bad luck, of course. The red flags are definitely stacking up, and whether you prefer word to take it literally or metaphorically. This game show has all the warning signs of a deal with the devil. The man on the phone's voice even sounds devilish, and he was way too eager for Elliot to get started, if you ask me. Agreeing to the game was essentially like inviting the demon in, and we've seen how this plays out enough times to know that although things always start off small, evil entities like this have a way of making things worse and worse until your life is in shambles. Elliot here even majored in mythology and folklore in school, so if anyone here should see the warning signs, it should be him. Getting let go from a job sucks, but there are better alternatives for getting back on your feet than making a deal with shady voices over the phone, who are literally watching your every move. Elliot's under a lot of pressure because he knows that his brother Michael will lose coverage now that he's been fired. But he's also about to get married, so it could be possible to insure his brother through his wife's job until he can find another one. His wife and brother seem supportive enough to stick with him through the hard times. And if he's doing this because he wants to keep them safe, then getting involved with an all-powerful shadow organization it's not a great way to do it. Personally, as soon as some strange voice calls me with every single detail about my life, I'd be strongly considering just getting out of town while I could and moving to another country. For now, though, Elliot doesn't have much to lose by playing along. He stands to win an insane amount of money, and it seems like you can get out fairly easily if things start to get too intense. So I can't blame him for signing up, but it won't be long before things start to take an even more sinister turn. The next
there defensively as they stop him at the 48.
Arcade by Alpha, one of the greatest plugins that I've ever used.
The next day, Elliot and Shelby go to meet her parents for lunch at the park when suddenly he receives another phone call. It's time for challenge number 3. There's another $5,000 on the table, and the rules are very simple. To get the cash, all he needs to do is make a little kid cry. The voice doesn't care how he does it, but he has 5 minutes to break a child's heart. Otherwise, it's game over. The park is crawling with kids, but won't be able to get close enough to make them cry without having to deal with their parents. That's when he spots this sweet little girl peacefully skipping down the path all by herself, and decides that it's time to ruin her day. Just when she's about to enter the building, Elliot blocks her path and starts telling the kid that her parents don't actually love her. She calls his bluff at first, but he doubles down, saying that they're getting a divorce and sending her to live at the orphanage. And the worst part is that it's all her fault. Finally, the girl breaks and runs back to her parents with tears in her eyes, as another $5,000 is deposited into Elliot's account, just like the voice promised. Elliot goes running back to his family too, trying to get out of there as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, though, they're not quite fast enough, and they're ambushed in the parking lot by the girl's angry mother, who flings a loaded trash can straight at his windshield. But Elliot peels out of there and takes off down the road, with Shelby never catching on to what really happened. That's 3 challenges down, with 10 more to go. Okay, I get that Elliot is trying to make some serious paper here, but that was just messed up. Now, there aren't exactly a lot of ethical ways to make a kid cry to begin with, but out of all the options that were available to him, I think that Elliot here might have actually chosen one of the worst possible plans. I mean, I probably don't need to tell you why a grown man approaching a strange little girl at the park is a bad look, to say the least. Plus, singling out a particular kid like he did is not necessarily the smartest call. Besides the fact that you might lose the whole thing if you can't make that particular kid cry, this also runs the risk of the parents, or even the police getting involved. Elliot could have easily gotten his ass kicked at best, or been arrested by an officer at worst. Which is why, if it were me, I would have tried to come up with another strategy. While I may not like his approach, there's no denying that he got results. That's because the idea of being separated from their parents is one of the most single upsetting things for a child at this age. The truth is that there are a lot of ways to upset a little kid, but almost all of them could get you into some serious trouble. So how do we come up with a way to complete this challenge that also minimizes our own personal risks? This solution could come from understanding children's psychology. Besides being separated from their parents, some of the other most unsettling things for kids are unexpected changes, and any betrayal of the trust that they have in their caregivers. Knowing this, I think I have an answer that just might work. The plan is simple. Once I was off the phone, I'd simply stand up from the table and shout, "Santa Claus isn't real," as loudly as I could into the unsuspecting crowd. This strategy works because it's technically a crime and is just about guaranteed to make at least one of the kids there cry, without directly targeting anyone in particular, even if it's just from the chaos that will inevitably follow when all of the adults react to what I've just done. It's really the only way that I can think of for Elliot to complete this challenge without getting in trouble with the law. The worst that it'll get him is an awkward moment with Shelby's parents, but for $5 grand, it's up for you to decide whether it's worth it or not. I hate to say it, but it might be time for Elliot to start reconsidering his involvement. He's up more than $11,000 by now, and that's some serious cheese. But picking on a kid is a lot more intense than putting yourself through the disgust of eating a dead fly. I don't like the way that this seems to be going, but for now, we can only wait and see what's in store for the next test. What's up, y'all? Today, I'm talking about Factor, the meal delivery service that's been a total game changer for me. I mean, let's face it, life gets variety. There are chili and chicken and those smoothies. Those bad so much time off of your first Factor box and free wellness shots for life with code HowToBeat50. That's right, half off. Head to factormeals.com/HowToBeat50 and use code HowToBeat50 to get 50% off. Seriously, guys, you do not want to miss out on this. So ditch the takeout menus and the grocery store stress and give Factor a try. You're not going to regret it. Thanks, Factor. You guys really put me on. Now, back to the show.
But he does have first down yardage. And that'll just about do it for us in this one. You've notched another win, and the next challenge awaits.
Later that afternoon, Elliot and Shelby head down to the local church to pick up his unapologetically evil father. Elliot here is probably thinking that he's off the hook when it comes to the game, at least for a little while. But no sooner does he step through the church doors than he gets another call from the voice. It looks like the time has come for challenge number 4 to begin, and it's the most tedious task yet. At the front of the room is a nativity scene, painstakingly made with love by kids from the local home for the blind. For a whopping 10,000 doubloons, Elliot has to burn it. It's too late to turn back now, so while Shelby is busy taking care of his dad, Elliot grabs the sculpture and sneaks it out through the back door. Once he's safely outside, he takes one last look around to make sure that no one is watching. Pulls a book of matches out of his pocket and lights the thing up. The sculpture erupts in flames. Elliot immediately receives a message that he's completed the challenge and is now 10 grand richer. With the money safely in his account, he grabs a broom and starts trying to swat out the flames, but only ends up spreading the fire into the church itself. He never meant to burn the whole building down, so Elliot quickly grabs a fire extinguisher, trying desperately to put it out, but it's no use. Panicking, he sprints inside, pulls the fire alarm, and meets his family in the hallway as the three of them make a hasty escape through the front door. That's 4 challenges down, with 9 more left to go. Okay, this is not good. Elliot's not even halfway through yet, and the challenges have officially gone way too far. Sure, they haven't asked him to kill anyone yet, but I don't like how this is progressing. First, it starts off simple enough with the blood, but then they made him bully a child, and now we've escalated to full-blown arson in a church. At this point, this isn't just a game anymore, it's a crime spree. And Elliot could find himself in serious trouble if he gets caught. The fact that he put people's lives in danger bumps this up from simple arson to aggravated arson. And in the state of Louisiana, you could face 20 years to life in prison for this without the possibility of parole. So far, he's made over $20,000. That's a lot, but not enough for me to want to risk life in prison. Personally, I'm not cut out for life in the big house, and I'd much rather earn my money the old-fashioned way if this is where the game is going. That's not to mention that this is only Challenge 4, so there's still a long way to go. At the very least, Elliot should have gotten farther away from the building and grabbed a fire extinguisher first before lighting the match. It doesn't help that he hit the fire with the most flammable thing imaginable, and right towards the open window with the highly flammable curtains. Overall, this was just a horrible choice of location on his part. A better response to prevent collateral damage here would have been to just knock the sculpture to the ground and stomp the flames out, as messed up as that is. Unlike the park, this church had cameras, so they're going to have video footage of him. And he'll be lucky if he avoids winding up behind bars. All things considered, I would have quit the moment that I found out what this challenge was. But things for Elliot are about to get much, much, much worse. Outside, Elliot quickly loads his father's wheelchair into the trunk as he tries to flee the scene. But just when he's about to get in the car himself, he suddenly receives yet another call. The boy is seriously impressed with his work so far, and now they want him to follow this random homeless man down the block. At this point, Shelby here is starting to get extremely suspicious, but Elliot insists that he's working on a surprise for their wedding, and finally manages to throw her off, at least for now, leaving her to take care of his father while he goes to complete the next challenge. Sometime later at the local police station, the word of Elliot's antics begins to spread. They've got the little girl from the park, witnesses from the church, and now even the homeless man, who claims that some strange man tickled him out of his clothes and shopping cart. And the reports all lead back to the same mysterious man. It's strange enough that one of the force's veterans, Detective Chilcote, decides to take over the case himself, but soon we're going to find out that he has personal reasons for getting involved that only knows about. Following the instructions, Elliot eventually arrives at a severely run... apartment building across town. According to the voice, there's another $50,000 coming his way, and all that he needs to do this time is take the lonely man from 6B down to the local diner for a cup of coffee. But as always, the challenge isn't as straightforward as it seems. As Elliot cautiously slips into the man's room, he finds the place looking like it's been completely abandoned for days. And when he looks into the bathroom, he suddenly realizes why. The man is there all right, but he's dead in the bathtub. And it looks like he has been for a while. It's a heartbreaking scene, and Elliot decides that he doesn't want to take this challenge any further. But the voice reminds him of everything that he stands to lose. And eventually, they're able to talk him into going through with it. Against his better judgment, Elliot caves to the pressure, but he only has until the clock strikes 4 to get it done. Otherwise, the only prize that he'll be taking home is a one-way ticket back to Loserville. After struggling to get the guy out of his apartment, Elliot pushes him down the block, Weekend at Bernie's style, until they finally arrive at the diner. Things start out smoothly enough, but the waitress is taking her sweet old time, and it doesn't help that Elliot here is acting suspicious as hell. He tries just getting the coffee for his friend, but it's the diner's policy that everyone in the booth has to order something. So in a moment of utter stupidity, he decides that he'll have a cheeseburger, complicating things for no reason with his time quickly running out. The pressure is on, and with less than 2 minutes left before game over, a group of on-duty police officers walks in and takes a seat at the booth right behind him. Of course, they end up getting their coffee purchased, leaving Elliot with no choice but to reach over the seat and steal one for himself right in front of their faces, slamming it down in front of his deceased buddy just as the timer runs out. The officers obviously start giving him trouble, but he calls them out for drinking alcohol on the job, which stops them in their tracks just long enough for him to slip out the door and disappear around the corner. The voice immediately calls him up, and they were so impressed with his performance that they've decided to count this as 2 challenges completed. But no good deed goes unpunished, as they say, so they've also left an anonymous tip at the doctor's office where his brother Michael has been receiving.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I got to go in a little later today, but yep. Not right now, but not right now, but yes.
Okay, well, she's out of surgery and stuff, and I think she's in a room they was transporting.
Okay.
So make sure you talk to her, okay?
Yep.
I was asking for the mom on the step.
Okay.
Alright, we'll call me back.
Okay.
Okay, alright, get started. Go ahead.
Okay.
Alright,
Love you too.
Treatment, letting them know that he's been dropped from his insurance coverage since Elliot here lost his job. It suddenly becomes clear that the voice is not playing fair. But Elliot is officially in too deep to quit, and that makes 7 challenges with 6 more to go. Down the road, Elliot comes to a bus with his name on it that's being driven by a mysterious person in a Mardi Gras-style costume, and takes a seat without receiving any further instructions. The voice then calls again to let Elliot know that he dropped his library card during the cycle back at the diner. Now, the police will eventually find out exactly who he is, and he's facing over a decade in prison for what he's done. The but the voice reassures him that if he just finishes the game, then they have the power to cover it all up. Okay, wow, what a disaster. I don't think that Elliot here could have come any closer to blowing it if he tried. We don't need a crystal ball to predict that this is only going to get worse from here after this challenge. He's officially a wanted man, so I think that you can guess what I'm about to say. And it's Elliot, you f***ed up. Alright.
I'm very nice, so hold it up. Because it's the things you make that show what you're made.
Alright, so although we don't know just how much cash that Elliot is up to by now, it's probably safe to say that it's over 100 grand. That's a ton of money, but he's going to have trouble spending it if he ends up playing bars. He was already in hot water for a little arson back at the church, but getting caught with a real dead body is a quick way to make things even worse. What he just did here could be considered desecration of a corpse. That's another felony, and could tack on as much as 10 years in prison. Stack that up with everything that he's already done, and he's looking at some serious time if he gets caught. If he was going to go through with the tax, then he needed to get in and out of that diner as quickly as possible. That shouldn't be too hard, right? But Elliot for sure found a way to cut it close. There were only 2 minutes left on the clock before he failed the game, so when the waitress started holding things up, why in the world would he order a cheeseburger out of everything that he could have said? I genuinely couldn't believe what I was hearing at the moment. Hey Elliot, here's an idea. Why not just order 2 coffees? That would have kept everything nice and simple, and you wouldn't have had to steal one from the actual police. All that you had to do was play it cool and get out of there, but you actually did the opposite. And if it weren't for plot armor, you'd be in the back of a squad car right now. The whole point of this, besides the money of course, is that Elliot is supposed to be learning to stand up for himself. But all that he's done so far is let the boys bully him into several felonies, all for some rich weirdo's entertainment. Now, he's already in trouble with the law, and the voice keeps progressively making his life worse and worse, so that he's forced to keep playing. What's even worse is that it only took 6 challenges for them to start doing this, and he's still only halfway done. The voice says that they can make this all go away if he wins, and maybe they can, but the truth is that Elliot has no guarantee of that either. He's done everything that they've wanted so far, only to wind up being blackmailed and punished. So I definitely wouldn't be taking their word for it anymore. Elliot really should have quit while he was ahead, and as soon as they told him to bully a kid back at the park, he might still be broke, but at least he wouldn't have had the Illuminati going after his family to keep him playing. This is going to get much worse before it's all over, and he'll be lucky just to get out alive without a massive prison sentence. If there was ever a time to quit, now's the moment, because he has a bad feeling that winning won't mean what he thinks it will, and at this rate, he's going to have to either turn himself in or get ready to spend the rest of his life on the run. Sorry, Elliot, but, you f***ed up. After a long drive, the bus eventually arrives at a random motel way out in the countryside, dropping Elliot there without a word. He's left on his own to figure out where to go next, but only one room in the place appears to be occupied, and he knows that that's where he'll find his next challenge. To his surprise, there's another man already sitting in a chair against the wall, and he seems just as scared and nervous as Elliot, confused, but not yet ready to turn back. Elliot quietly takes a seat next to him without bothering to ask why he's there. Moments later, a scantily clad nurse enters the room behind them and immediately starts taking ominous-looking items out of her bag, including a buzzsaw and a plastic tarp that she spreads on the floor. While she's busy setting up, the man suddenly realizes that he recognizes Elliot from middle school and introduces himself as John, one of Elliot's childhood bullies, who's also recently been down on his luck. It's not exactly a friendly reunion, but just when Elliot is starting to get concerned, he finally gets another call from the voice. It's time for challenge number 8, and with 1,000 V-Bucks on the line, Elliot's next task is to saw off John's right arm while he's still awake. Elliot refuses to do it at first, but is shocked to realize that John actually wants him to, because the voice is paying him to play along. Now that he knows this is a consensual back-alley surgery, they strap John in for the procedure, but even still, Elliot hesitates. Furious, John here says, "Let me make this decision a little bit easier for you," and actually starts bullying Elliot again from the operating table, reminding him of all the terrible things that he and his brothers did until he finally cuts his arm off just to shut him up. It's brutal, and the arm doesn't come off easily, but once it's done, Elliot takes the man in his car and rushes him to the nearest hospital, like the stand-up guy he is. As he's sneaking out of the building before anyone can start asking questions, he unexpectedly finds John's brother at the front desk harassing the receptionist. Now that he's gone pretty much all the way off the deep end, Elliot grabs a chair and puts the beatdown of a lifetime on this jerk right in front of everyone. The voice loves to see it, and immediately awards Elliot with another $250,000. With the guy's blood still on his face, Elliot speeds back to town, feeling sickly satisfied with himself, and that makes 9 challenges down with just 4 more left to go.
At Citadel Federation, we empower you with digital tools to put home. Join us today and learn more about
Okay, this just turned into Saw pretty damn fast. Who knows? Maybe John Kramer has been the one behind this all along, and he's just trying out some new material. In the span of just a few hours, Elliot here has gone from committing random crimes to just straight up chopping a guy's arm off. At least he was an asshole, but Elliot really needs to be careful about how much he lets all of this go to his head. All of that being said, if Elliot were paying very close attention, then he might have noticed a few very obscure hints that could reveal who's really behind this twisted game. Buckle up, because I'm breaking out the conspiracy board for this one. Let's start with the key in the motel room door. There was writing